All right, welcome. It is Geographically Challenged episode number 80. We've got these two idiots back, Pilski and Bleh, on the show as usual. And look, guys, there's a lot to talk about this week. There's been a lot of happenings, so we're just going to jump straight on into it. No messing around. Before we do that, of course, we have to... Pilski, stop doing that. That looks really, really bad, by the way, on my end. Just saying. So try not to do that while we're doing the sponsor read. Just right before the sponsor read. Shout out to Skinclub, of course. As you guys know, we are sponsored by Skinclub for the meanwhile, and we've been doing some content over there for them. I've been doing some on my own. We've been doing some as a group. If you want to check that out, there is a link in the description. I've got now 3 videos, including the one that we did get together over on the Skinclub platform. We'll be recording another one in a week. That is going to be the MRQ preview episode. So if you are hoping to hear anything about the MRQ here on Geographically Challenged, we're probably not going to be discussing it too heavily here. We'll be doing that over on the Skinclub platform. You can check that out in about a week or so. So check out that link in the description. It would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much, of course, to Skinclub for helping out with Geographically Challenged episode number 80. Let's jump on into episode number 80. Things are heating up over in China. I don't know if you guys saw this with Lynn Vision and their forfeits. This is now... They have actually forfeited to Rare Atom. This is now a few days ago, this news. But basically, the TLDR was they put this tweet out just prior to the PGL Astana Qualifier matches that they were going to play against Rare Atom, basically saying, hey, we're not really sure what necessarily we should do. Should we forfeit this game? Should we play this game? And then if we win it, that directly hurts our chances of playing at the major. If we play it and then we lose it, and then people are going to think we're going to be match fixing. So there's a lot of different issues, I guess, that they've brought up in this tweet, and there was obviously quite a number of replies. So I thought we should probably talk about it here. My 2 cents is I think they made the right choice actually by forfeiting. I don't think that there was really any situation where they could walk out the winners here, because even if they would go in there and win it, obviously, first of all, that hurts their chances at the major, potentially. And they may still actually lose that extra slot at the major. But secondly, they potentially just draw the ire of the entire Chinese audience as well. I mean, and that can't necessarily be a fun thing either, if you're kind of like directly going against the interests of your nation. So I think it was kind of like a lose-lose, unfortunately, for Lynn Vision here. And ultimately, they decided to kind of go with the lose less rather than the lose more in this instance. Now, I think I probably should just clarify for anyone that isn't aware of what this situation was necessarily. There's 4 slots to the major from Asia this time around. There are 3 regions in Asia for the MRQs. One of those extra slots has to get decided basically where it ends up going. Is it going to go to China? Is it going to go to Oceania/SCA? Is it going to go to Asia/West? Mongolia/West Asia. That's what it's called. So one of those sub-regions is going to get this extra slot, and the way that's decided is by having the second place Valve-ranked team in Asia, and right now that's Rare Atom in China. So if Lynn Vision would beat Rare Atom, they would take points off of them, and there's a chance that it would be the Huns, as we're talking about this, that would be able to overtake them based on some of these mesa tournaments that's happening. So that's kind of the whole situation. Have I covered everything? Have I covered all the details there, guys? Is that everything?
Yeah, I do want to it seems like there's a lot of even then there's a lot of confusion overall for people as to like why Rare Atom did the thing they did, and just to kind of simplify it, just for CS fans who are kind of casuals, basically, if they win, China potentially loses a slot, right? So it's a bad thing for the region. They don't even have the slot right there. Number 2, if they do play the game and they do wind up losing anyway, there could be potentially accusations of match fixing. That's something that they stated as well. So it is indeed a catch-22 for Lynn Vision. And look, man, like I feel like them forfeiting was the only option available to them, if you ask me. Now, I get it from different people's perspectives. It might be like, oh, they're manipulating the results right here. Sure, they're not wrong, but I have to put the blame solely at the feet of Valve, right? This MRQ thing, the way they distributed this, because it is Asia. And if everyone remembers how Jordan kind of painted Asia, it's a big fucking region. You can't have it online. You have Oceania, you have fucking East Asia, you have West Asia, you even have fucking Africa, right? So your MRQ, the way Valve have just kind of like, yeah, you guys are gonna play this one out online. It doesn't make sense. Now, if they make this into a LAN, you have regional qualifiers, and then everyone comes in and plays for that LAN spot, none of this would be happening. Now, there could be a better solution. I can't think of one. But the thing is, very quickly, at least before the next major, or I mean, I say even before a player break, Valve needs to come out and say, all right, guys, this is how we got to fix this particular situation, because this should not be happening. A team should not be in a position where they have to decide whether they have to forfeit or, you know, throw the game or whatever, and be in this catch-22 situation.
I love that from Lynn Vision, though. They're like pointing out the issue. They're like, we should maybe forfeit this game, and then they just straight up fucking forfeit it. Like absolute mad lads. Like respect, honestly. Like I feel like between Lynn Vision and Mongolz, you know, the Asia like cultural impact is starting to like trend upwards. You know, like people are actually starting to care, and I just love that they did this, and I think like as well. I don't know if it was like a loose translation or something, but they're like our Chinese brothers or some shit like that. Like we got to forfeit this game for the Chinese lads.
I mean, but that's the thing that you have to understand about China is that's how they think, though. It's like we are doing this for China, right? And that's why I bring up the fact that if they would not do it, and then they would be working against like the Chinese. Not region, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you're working against Chinese interests in that case. So it's the same way that, you know, I would like to see an Australian perform well at the major. Bleh would obviously like to see Indians perform well at the major. You're kind of going against your national pride or whatever it is. And I think that's something that's quite strong in the Chinese region. So that definitely could have had some blowback on them if they would have played that game and then beaten Rare Atom, and then as a result the Chinese region lost that second slot. I'm sure they would have copped shit for that. And let's remember, like, Lynn Vision is one of those teams that they're kind of like up and down in terms of people either love them or hate them. I think in China it seems to be a fairly polarizing team. So I don't think that they want to necessarily be playing around with that. Now, Bleh, you said there's no real solution. I kind of agree with you, although I have two potential solutions here. The first one is, do we just obviously have a LAN? That's the one easy solution, right? If we have a LAN final as a qualifier where we have same thing as the MRQ, same thing as the minor, you know, 2 teams from each sub-region, I guess, and then play that as a LAN. That's the easiest fix. I think that's the ultimate thing. If we could just do that, no problem. This doesn't exist in any way, shape, or form. The second option, which is kind of like a workaround, I guess, in a sense, and maybe the one that I'm not super happy with, but I just want to float as an idea, and it's purely because we're in this online world, is do we create a MENA sub-region as well? So then we have 4 sub-regions. Okay, so if we're going to have 4 slots, we have 4 sub-regions. Okay, so we have China, we have Oceania/ACA, we have Mongolia and West Asia, and then we have MENA. And I think Mongolia and West Asia technically includes this MENA region. I think West Asia counts in MENA as opposed to in SEA. So essentially you're taking teams out of the West Asia, Mongolia, West Asia qualifier and creating its own qualifier for that. Now, what does that do? Obviously, it takes a slot away currently from China, although it could potentially take that slot away from Mongolia, depending on how the Huns do over the next couple of days in this this Mesa tournament, and puts it into that MENA region. The first concern I think people are going to have with that is like, oh, are these Middle Eastern teams good enough? Are these North African teams good enough? I think yes, they actually are, quite frankly. Like if we've seen what happened at Extreme Zan with EXO winning that event, we've seen GG How I think have been generally pretty good competitors within the Asia region. They've been beating out some of the top Asia teams in a lot of the tournaments that they've gone to. So I think there's definitely an argument to be made that just in terms of relative strength of those sub-regions, they don't necessarily go missing in any way, shape, or form. So that's kind of my take. The benefit of that, of course, is that now you're not necessarily having as many ping issues. You obviously are still having ping issues just purely because of the fact that we're playing it online. Australia is going to have to play Southeast Asia in some world where potentially there was a Southeast Asia team that would qualify, which is not the case this time around, but let's just say there was. So that could still be ping issues, and obviously, you know, Far East Russia is going to be playing in potentially this Mongolia qualifier. But I think at least now, then, in that case, you won't have teams from, like, Middle East, where some of those guys are, like, in fucking about as far away from Asia as you can possibly be, playing against teams in Mongolia. So that's my solution if we're going to stay with this online world and we're going to have 4 slots for Asia, is have an extra sub-region, and then each sub-region just gets one split, one each. Did I cook, or am I cooked?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm always caught between like the two things. It just depends what way you want to go on it. Do you want that regional representation, or you want to reward the teams that are the best? Yeah, that's all it comes down to for me. I did see actually the other day that they had Issa and Boros playing on GG How at the same time, and I was like, oh shit, bro. And they both dropped like 100 ADR in the game that I clicked on HOTV. I was like, okay. Maybe Middle East might be cooking a little bit. I don't know. I think it just depends. It always comes down to that decision, and it comes down to how much money like TOs are willing to spend, and how much we're gonna like mandate certain conditions to like maintain the integrity of the qualifiers. What I will say though, to Lynn Vision specifically, is like if a team was going to get accused of match fixing every time that they forfeited or didn't forfeit the game, we'd had no games in Asia. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, same with Pilski. I obviously, for me, considering what the Mongolian teams have done so far and the Chinese teams, right, I would rather have a slot in that region and kind of duke it up. But you know what? It's fair play, the Middle East having a spot right there. But whatever it is, man, I just want Valve to like just come in and just lay down the law, because
fucking land qualifier, bro. Fucking one spot for Middle
But
East.
It's gonna be in the TO. Then it's gonna be like the only land qualifier amongst all the qualifiers, and it becomes just
But is that unreasonable?
Yeah.
Is that unreasonable when
for us
Asia? No. But like, let's just look at it. The Asia Pacific region, it's called Asia Pacific, okay? But it's actually 70% of the fucking world, as we established on that previous episode. Okay,
it's not just Asia Pacific; it's Asia Pacific Africa.
It's Asia Pacific, Africa, fucking everywhere that's not Europe or North and South America.
Just throw in Antarctica as well. I mean, if they can get
East
tariffs,
Russia.
then we can fucking get some teams from there as well, right? Like a Penguin 5 or whatever.
Bro, if there's a team from fucking Greenland, they're probably going to play in this qualifier. You know what I mean? Although we'll see what happens with Trump. He might take over and they'll be part of North America. But anyway,
exactly.
That's
NACS.
Yeah, NACS on
to
top.
To be fair, if Greenland, considering they're close with Denmark and all of that, again, I'm very bad with world politics and whatnot. But if America can take them over, would they be like Danish players playing in NA?
I don't know. But yeah, that's a fair point potentially.
All right.
Look, one other thing that we have to talk about in regards to this is how this all plays out with the regional tournament operators as well. That was something that was kind of raised by Lynn Vision too, is that they sort of had some concerns that regional TOs could have some degree of bias towards obviously their region, which I don't think is inherently necessarily a bad thing. Like, I've obviously just come off of the Dfrag Invitational. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in this show. That was an ANZ event where only ANZ teams played and only ANZ teams were able to get VRS points, and some of them got pretty substantial amounts of points. I can't remember exactly how many it was, but it was in the realms of like somewhere between 200 and 400. It was definitely multiple triple digits numbers for Semper Fi, who won. And as you can see on the rankings here, Semper Fi have actually got now enough to overtake FlyQuest, or they're actually even on numbers, but they're technically listed as higher than FlyQuest are currently at this point in time. So that event does a lot for the ANZ region. But then you look at it and say, okay, well, if we would have run another one of those, if we would run a second Dfrag Invitational today, and it would finish before the 7th of April, which is when the invites go out, we would have Semper Fi potentially, if they would win, go above Rare Atom and be the number 1 seed in the Asia region, or the number 2 seed in the Asia region behind the Mongolz, in which case ANZ would take the second major slot, which is obviously something that these teams in ANZ could potentially have a vested interest in doing. Is there some back channel that could potentially be like, oh, look, we're FlyQuest, hey, let's talk to our sponsors. I don't know who their sponsors are. This is just a theoretical example. I don't want anyone to sort of, take this anywhere that it shouldn't. But let's just say, like, FlyQuest goes, yeah, we want to have that second slot for ANZ. Let's talk to our sponsors, see if they can run a tournament with Dfrag, get them $10,000, $15,000 for Dfrag to run this tournament, and we'll have all the ANZ teams play, and we'll bump up the ANZ numbers, and all of a sudden now there's 2 slots for ANZ. That is a very real possibility. I'm not saying that it is currently happening, but I'm saying the fact that it could possibly happen is a bad precedent. Now, you look over in what's happening in Mongolia, if you guys have been following over there, the MESA tournaments, there's 2 MESA tournaments that have been run just prior to the Valve ranking cutoff. The one finished yesterday on the 3rd, one is finishing on the 6th, which is in a couple of days' time. Obviously, the Huns, they picked up the win in the most recent one that just finished, so they've just jumped themselves up to 959 points. If they were to win the next one, which is, so the previous one, I think, was the MESA... One of them was like just a MESA tournament, like a MESA Pro Series Spring, and the other one is the Nomadic Masters Qualifier for Mongolia. So what's interesting about that is the Nomadic Masters Qualifiers for China and for Asia are after the cutoff date. The one for Mongolia is before the cutoff date. Again, I'm not insinuating anything here. I'm just presenting the facts. But the facts are that the Mongolia region has got 2 tournaments that are very, very close to that cutoff date, just prior to that cutoff date, that could potentially put the Huns into a position where they take that second slot in Asia above Rare Atom and give that second major slot to the Asia MRQ, which in this case would directly benefit the Mongolian teams. Although, again, potentially some of the other regions getting involved there as well. I think India, with God's Reign, are pretty close to getting an invite over there as well because of the fact that ATOX are still in that list, and they probably shouldn't be in that list. So look, there are benefits for regions other than Mongolia, but the thing is, again, and whether or not this is the case, whether or not this is something that they've done on purpose or not, I don't think it matters. I think the problem is the fact that this is possible for it to be, for it to be, what's the word? Abused. The fact that it can be abused is the problem, and that's why I'm trying to raise it here. I'm not trying to throw anything at Mesa because I think, again, they've done a lot actually just for the region. Generally, you go back and look at some of their other tournaments. They had invites for teams over in China. They had teams from Oceania in their most recent PGL qualifier that they ran, where they flew all of those teams. They had all those teams come over to Mongolia, right? So they don't have to do that necessarily. So I think there's definitely some credit where it's due for Mesa. But again, you look at this, and I think it's fair for teams to go, okay, why is this? Is this fair? Is this fair for us? Maybe, maybe not. I don't blame teams for having that concern, but I also don't blame regional TOs for running tournaments for their region. Like, I just don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think Dfrag have done anything wrong. I don't think Mesa have done anything wrong. I don't think ACL's doing anything wrong by having, Chinese Open qualifiers for ACL, for example. It's just, what is the system that we can create that can prevent this kind of potential thing being abused? Because if, in the end of the day, Bleh says, I've just had an investment of $1 billion from some Indian fucking mega man, and he decides India's going to be the best region in Asia. He can do that. He can literally start running $1 million tournaments in India, and all of a sudden India's the best team in Asia, which is just not. It's just not the case. So what do we do, guys? What do we do?
I mean, look. This is something we've seen in not just in Counter-Strike, right? Generally in life, like if there is a legal avenue available, any company, team, whatever, they're gonna take it. They're gonna do it. So I cannot blame the TOs, Mesa, for example, for hosting their events to help out the scene, right? This is the game they have to play. They're playing the fucking game. And in a perfect world, remember, what if instead of just having a CAC, they start having 3 mini, Mesa's Nomadic Masters events throughout the year, or at least before the next major, for example. They can really, boost it as well. And that this is something we knew was potentially going to happen. We spoke about this back when even the RMR, the concept of RMRs when it got removed, when you're talking about VRS points, we're like, this is something which can be potentially abused by orgs as well. You have some of these TOs who also own teams. Some of these betting companies and whatnot. They could have done it. We spoke about this. It's happened in the past. So this is something Valve has to address it. I think that these are all very valid points, but I would not put the blame on the TOs or the teams. It's something that Valve has made, and that's just being abused, or I wouldn't even say abused, man. It's just being used the way it's been laid out for them, right? They're not trying anything nefarious.
In a way, is it the system working as intended, right? Let's just assume that Valve actually wants this to occur, because what it does is it promotes Counter-Strike in these regions. That's what it's actually doing. It's promoting promoting tournament organizers to run tournaments in their regions. Is that inherently necessarily a bad thing?
It's not, but it's where the conflict of interest comes in. So I can point out multiple different examples if you don't understand why this is a problem, which is I won't name any names, but for example, for Dfrag, right? If you have one of the teams that they're also investing in the tournament, and their team, the owner of the team is investing in the tournament and owns a team that's playing at the tournament, then that's already a fucking problem. If they're putting on a lot of events and he's just pumping money into events that his team can play out to earn points. In the case of Mongolia, for example, I don't know, if Mongolz, the government was investing in Mongolz and then also started investing in the TO and started fucking putting on a ton of events, that's a fucking problem, Or some Saudi prince just decides, let's fucking go, fucking 4 tournaments right before the MRQ. I'm just going to pump a bunch of fucking money into this, and Middle Eastern teams are invited.
Yep.
That's a fucking problem, These are just multiple different examples of where this could become a problem. So
I just want to say, look, but right now it's probably a little too late for this major, and I think it's pretty much everything's kind of locked in and everything, right? But I really hope Valve takes a look at this right before the player break, because again, the points which are going to be accrued post the Austin major, post the cutoff date, those points are going to be accrued for the next major, right? So already we can see the next cycle is going to be starting, and we're going to see more fuckery taking place this way. So, I mean, all said and done, Valve, please, like literally, they're the only ones who can lay down the law here.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. And again, this is where you run into the conversation of if you just have a LAN final for this qualifier, it doesn't matter. 5 slots, 4 slots, 6 slots, 10 slots, whatever for Asia, as long as it's a LAN final where there's an even slot distribution between regions. If you end up with 2 Chinese teams, 2 Mongolian teams out of that from the MRQ, no problem. No problem at all.
Yeah.
As long as each region gets the opportunity to compete fairly, that's all that matters, I think.
Yeah.
Fairly being the bottom line.
Yeah, even without the conflict of interest shit and like talking about like trying to like pump and dump points or anything like that, it's like this is the inherent problem with fucking exactly what is represented on this page. Like the points that are being allocated and awarded to teams participating in certain regions and trying to compare them with teams that participate in other regions where the tournaments are not equitable, the amount of tournaments, the level of competition and the quality and all that stuff. Like this point scale is garbage and doesn't represent reality at the end of the day. That's like my problem with it. And that's always been my problem with it. It's like, you cannot say like this is a fair allocation because like it just doesn't necessarily like work that way, And I think it's creating problems if we keep going down this road.
I think to an extent as well, again, in an ideal world, if we have a lot more of these tournaments that just include all regions throughout the season, it doesn't really become as much of a problem. Like if we have multiple events like ACL, if we have more of these mesa tournaments where, you have 8 teams from over China, Oceania, and Asia, then it starts to even itself out. Everyone's kind of like competing against each other, and it's not necessarily a problem. The issue, of course, is in those kinds of events, not all of the teams are attending that you'd want to attend. Like ex-Talon, for example, didn't go to that Mongolia event, and they're number 3 right now in ANZ. Would we probably want to be seeing them play against the Rare Atoms, the Tylus, the Lynn Visions, and the Huns and stuff like that? Yes, of course. Tylu and Lynn Vision also were not at that event. And then when we're looking at these ACL events, obviously some of these teams like Rooster's missing out on that, ex-Talon's missing out on that because they want to play in the MRQ. So there's a lot of fuckery going on. The TLDR is, in an ideal world, we have a LAN final, we have more Asia-based LANs as opposed to just regional-based LANs. And this is something that I floated as well with Dfrag, and I don't know if this is a spoiler or anything like that, but they are exploring the option of having Asia teams come to the next Dfrag. There is supposed to be another Dfrag this year. Obviously, we can't say necessarily that will definitely or definitely not happen. Money's involved, everything like that. Just have to kind of like cross the T's and dot the I's and have it be the case. But the intention is currently, if we can do it, there's going to be another event in ANZ from Dfrag, and in an ideal world, there will be a couple of Asia teams involved in that in some way, shape, or form. How that works, don't know, but I think that's what every TO should be striving for at this point in time. Mesa, Dfrag, ACL, which is Hero Esports, Sky Esports, if they're going to run some of these India-based tournaments as well, why not? Why not? That's the dream. But anyway, we've had enough discussion about that, I think. Let's move on to something a little bit different here, because we do need to talk about this, which maybe we don't need to talk about, because in the end it actually didn't matter. But so look, let me just give the context. Initially, the conversation around Blast Rivals, which is a tournament that's just coming up here, is that Liquid ended up getting the Asia wildcard invite for this event. And that seemed to be true, except it wasn't as if the invites were confirmed. But based on this conversation, it seemed like they had at least received that invite. So anyway, we'll go on from there. The TLDR is they received an invite as a wildcard for the Asia slot at this particular Blast event. First question is, are they an Asia team? Well, yes and no. No, because they don't play in Asia, and they're really not an Asia team. But yes, because technically, according to the rules, the letter of the law, they are an Asia team, or they can be considered an Asia team. So in this world, Blast, within their rights, technically, can invite them as the Asia wildcard. Is it poor taste? Is it a bad precedent? I think so. Yes, I think it definitely is. Now, as we've just seen over the last week, it was actually FlyQuest that ended up getting the invite for this slot. So that raises a few questions. First of all, did Blast withdraw the invite because of the backlash on the community? Did Liquid decline for some reason? Or was was there a potential sneaky roster change coming in future, which meant that they were no longer eligible for that roster?
I mean, JKS is out, right? So
is that confirmed? I don't think it's confirmed.
I think it's kind of.
I think it's a rumor.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty much almost confirmed, I guess, because I feel like FlyQuest, for me, when FlyQuest got the invite, for me that was pretty much confirmation that JKS was out of the team and they don't have the Asia majority right there. Because again, it's gonna come down to Valve, right? Because for Blast, they had to invite a second team. I mean, the highest ranked team below the Mongolz, which was Liquid, considering their definition, and we've already spoken about this in the previous podcast. If you're Liquid, of course you say yes. You need those fucking points, right? They didn't attend Cluj-Napoca, and they've been struggling in all these group stages and whatnot, so they need those points. They have to say yes. Can't blame Liquid for saying yes to the to the invite. And the fact that it switched to FlyQuest, for me, it seems like pretty much a confirmation, at least for me, that JKS is 100% out. Which, even though might not be official, I think it's pretty much kind of like an open secret.
That's what I took it as well. But
it has to be. It has to be.
I mean, that's what I assume. But at this stage, it's just a rumor, I believe. Like, I don't think it's actually 100% confirmed. Like, there's been no official announcement on any Liquid platforms or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, look, let's just the Blast Rivals thing in particular for me is a little bit, again, it's like a little bit scary, right? With these VRS doodads and wishy-washy and this and that. It's like, is that okay? You know what I mean? Like,
am I too horny for Asia in thinking like, fuck everyone for this? Like, like fuck Valve for like allowing this kind of ruling to happen. I don't like that Blast even invited Liquid. Like, that should never have happened. And I don't like that Liquid accepted the invite. I hate everyone.
I mean, they have no option though, right? Like, I think Liquid was surprised when they got the invite, but they are the second highest ranked team in the Asian, the VRS. They have to be invited according to the rule set.
Do they though? I think this wildcard thing you can choose. I think that's the point of the wildcard is you don't actually have to invite you don't have to invite specific teams based on VRS. I believe the wildcard slots are like, again, this is another problem with VRS is that it's too fucking convoluted and you don't actually know what's going on. So it needs to be simplified, I think.
Well,
if I as someone who is extremely invested in Counter-Strike, pretty much my entire life is working and being involved in Counter-Strike, does not understand the system, how the fuck is anyone who's just a regular casual fan going to know? So first of all, let's just get that out of the way. Secondly, I'm pretty sure what it means is with the wildcard slots, and because this was a conversation that we were having for the Dfrag thing, when we're like, oh, how do we get Asia teams to this event? Because if you invite Asia teams, then you need to invite X amount of teams, blah, 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 blah. The TLDR is, I think, the wildcard slot, they just need to have won a tournament of some sort, this team, and then you can invite them. Or something like that. So it's like you can invite them based on something, and the wildcard slot doesn't necessarily have to be a VRS-based slot. It's just a wildcard slot is a wildcard slot. In some way, shape, or form, I don't know exactly what that wildcard necessarily means.
So is it not an Asian invite then?
It's an Asia wildcard slot.
There are like three. Yeah, there are three wildcard invites, right? Look, here's the thing. Okay, let's again. You know me, I've been critical of every tier out there when they fuck up. But for Blast, right? And I agree with you. Maybe they're going to go with Tyloo or like Rare Atom or whoever. Liquid just have a much bigger fan base than any of the teams right there.
It makes sense from their business.
It's obvious why they're doing it.
Exactly. So, I mean, again, do I really blame them? They're running a fucking business, right? And for Liquid, they need a fucking point. So again, I'm going to put the blame on Valve. What's worrying for me, though, this is kind of like a closed chapter, right, with FlyQuest coming in. What worries me, however, is the situation hasn't been addressed yet by Valve. What's going to happen down the line when you have these a similar scenario with Liquid taking place again, and then you have to like pick between Asia and EU, and Asia gets fucked. Because the entire point was, for Asia, and considering we're seeing, the Mongolz having a rise, we've seen the way Tyloo are playing right now and all of these things, it is finally starting to click into place because of the opportunities which were given to these Asian teams to perform. And when you have a team like Liquid just coming and taking all these spots, Valve, what fucking doing, right? So again, these are two things, the MRQ and this entire wild card, whatever, like a 2-2 picking a region thing scenario, which needs to be immediately sorted out, right? Or I don't know, here's one solution. Maybe ask the team to decide which region they want to play from.
That's the other thing, actually. I forgot to mention that. That's one thing that I thought potentially should be a conversation point for each season of the major cycle, right? For this 6 months. Okay, let's just say after we finish this next major, as soon as the next season starts, which will be presumably day after the next major, I mean, there's obviously player breaks and whatnot involved, but let's just say during that player break, each team then has to assign themselves to a region and say, if for this season of the major, we are a European team. For this season of the major cycle, we're an Asia team.
But they actually have to fucking play there.
They have to play there. But
they have to play there. That's the point.
That will region lock. That will region lock them as per a overall CS mandate, whatever, like in the scene. Whether it's Valve mandated or whoever, it has to be mandated that, like, oh, I am choosing to be an Asia team. No team's going to choose to be an Asia team if they're not an Asia team. That's first of all. So that gets rid of that problem, because no one, why the fuck would you play in Asia?
And if they really want to do it, if you want to, like, live in fucking Asia and play it, fine, all the power to you. Go for it. I won't complain about it. I will not bitch about it.
If you're going to play in Asia and invest in it. Yep. And the other thing is, teams are already somewhat soft-locked into their region anyway, as we saw with the talent thing. So if you're going to have them be soft locked and teams can't get invited to European CCT, for example, because they're not European core, even though they're living in Europe, let's just fucking make it official at this point. And then it sort of somewhat gets rid of some of these issues where you have this gray area where teams are like able to blur the lines. You know, again, we'll talk about it did we talk about it? I can't remember if I put it in for this episode. But there's this thing with HOTU as well. I don't know if you've seen this HOTU thing where they are potentially, they're an East Russian team, or they're whatever. They're playing in Asia in a lot of these qualifiers, but then as for the MRQ, now they're going to be forced to play in EU. Is that fair on them? Probably not, if they're actually an Asia team. Is it fair on Asia if they're playing in Asia and they're actually an EU team? Probably not for Asia. So gray area again, and it's like this would just fix this issue.
I feel like we've pointed out so many of these issues in our past podcasts where I was like, yo, just get a bunch of the boys from fucking St. Petersburg and pretend, we're all from East Russia, boys. Like, I've been Asian my whole life, and just start absolutely rolling the scene. Like, I feel like all of these issues are coming up at once. But
and again, I'm not saying that they're not. I'm not saying that they're not an Asian team. I don't know where they live, but this would solve that issue.
Obviously, Valve needs to fix shit, but at the same time, like, I just don't like these like powerful orgs and TOs and shit, like making these kind of decisions that fuck over like people with way less power and like who get way less opportunities. Like, it just feels so scummy to me. Like, I maybe I'm having my is this because we're from Brazil moment, but for Asia? But like, this is how I legit feel about it,
Bulgaria. Get the meme right.
Are they hating us
sorry.
from Asia? Yes.
No, dude. Like, that's my entire thing, right? Like, that's the premise of why I am annoyed with all these things happening. Is, again, which region struggles a lot is Asia. Which region is actually pulling off crazy shit right now? Is, Mongolia. I'm talking about Mongolz, talking about Tyloo. We saw what Rare Adam did and everything. Help us out a little bit more instead of fucking giving a slot to fucking Liquid. And at the end of the day, it is Valve, and how much they care. And historically, I won't lie, they've been very slow with these smaller issues. Issues which affect EU or NA, some of the more, the bigger over, what are you talking
Premier
about?
regions.
Yeah, and those issues which affect every region, those they address immediately. This has been going on for a while. This has been stuff which is being brought up on Twitter. We've been talking about this every fucking episode as well. But at the end of the day, it does come down to Valve. And
but how many Valve employees do you reckon watch this podcast, mate? There's 2,000, 3,000 views per episode. I think probably one of them is probably not a Valve employee. Just as a guess.
I'm going to drop a mail straight to Valve, with the podcast. Please watch.
Please watch. Very important. Look, at the end of the day, I think to give some credit to Valve, like, they have been obviously more invested in the CS ecosystem this year than they ever have been prior. So I will say
they have to, because it's their system now.
That's progress, though, right? Like, and if we continue to progress slowly but surely, chipping away at VRS, like, I don't think overall, inherently, the system is terrible. I think it just needs to get somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's not kill it, it's fix it at this point. So we're probably a third of the way there or half of the way there of where it needs to be, but it's slowly getting there.
And also, can we just have like some TOs or like organizations have some like level of, I'm not going to say morals, but like just not always be like, fuck it, we can abuse the rules, so let's fucking abuse the rules. Let's go.
Happen. You know that? That will never
That's never going to happen.
That's the same as asking, can we have a LAN for Asia MRQ when it's not mandated by Valve? It needs to be mandated by Valve. That's it. Anyway, look, we've had enough bad news. Let's talk about some good news here. Dfrag Invitational. Now, I am a bit of a Dfrag apologist, obviously, because I like events in ANZ, obviously, and I did work this event, so there's that. But I thought this event was actually really good. I'm sure you guys didn't watch a huge amount of it, but from the general sentiment that I had from the event, it was actually very well received from pretty much everybody involved: players, casters, staff, viewers. general community. Obviously, everything was not perfect, right? Like there were very, very long days. There was a lot of tech issues. There was, PCs could have been better, this and that, whatever. There was one like 1.5 hour tech delay because someone had lag on the server, and of course it was a LAN server, so it's like, why the fuck has he got like 200 ping? Turns out apparently, this sounds like bullshit to me, but this is what I was told. Apparently there was like some electromagnetic interference from the white noise generator to the cable, to the Cat5 cable, the network cable that went into his PC or something like that. And so he was getting lag because of that. And it was like...
I believe it.
It took an hour and a half to figure out, which, fair enough. Like, who the fuck is checking that? But apart from that, like, the event ran pretty well. No one really was complaining. Tournament was good. Teams were good. Everyone was happy. Vibes were good. We had sausages on the barbecue outside. It was very Straya, you know what I mean? And the only thing that I thought could have been better, really, was, let's have a couple of Asia teams in here as well. And then we can have a real Asia sort of tournament, VRS, everyone's getting to play good teams. Like, imagine Semper Fi wins this, or let's say Semper Fi, ex-Talon are the top 2 teams from like the ANZ stage. They go on to play against fucking Lynn Vision and Tyloo in stage 2 or something. That's fucking...
That'd be fun.
That would make me fucking... My sausage would be on
Jam
barbecue
Young
at that
with
point,
the
I'll
fucking sausage sizzle in his hand. Like, let's
I'm
fucking
surprised
go.
I'm surprised you didn't say shrimp on the Barbie.
Shrimp on the
Well, there was no
Barbie,
shrimp. There was no shrimp on the Barbie.
I thought
Mate, we don't have the fucking budget for prawns, bro.
It's a prawn, mate. It's not a shrimp. Come on.
You know how much they cost?
I thought when you said shrimp on a Barbie, it meant like literally any meat on it. I didn't know it was specifically shrimp and prawns. All right, cool.
Prawns, yeah.
Listen, I watched the finals, and I actually watched the opening game. I just watched 2 games. I watched the ex-Talon Semper Fi opening game, and then I saw the finals as well. So yeah, greater from Semper Fi. Ali's just, I think, he's looking much more comfortable. But then again, he's always farmed in Oz, right? So I can't read too much into it. But it did look like a fun tournament. I saw a couple of clips from you, Jordan. Asian, or rather APAC CS clip of the week. Some pretty wild shit, wild CS. You love to see it. And some just, very nice face-to-face LAN environments. And the Aussies are not afraid to, yell at each other, which is great.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of like decent O's players like floating around, and honestly, I think events like this are keeping them a little bit more interested. Like, I feel like there's a lot of players who like coming out of the woodwork and playing a little bit more at the moment. And I think there's I look at all of these teams, and I think like there's some good players on like most of these teams. And like I said, like my whole frustration point with O's is like there's a lot of good players floating around, but like varying commitment levels, and like maybe they're not as active as they could be, and we're not like putting together good teams. I feel like there's like quite a few orgs and teams that are like kind of putting their money where their mouth is. You've got a TO that's putting their money where their mouth is, and hopefully that kind of incentivizes and builds up the scene some more, and we can turn some potential into something better than potential. And I totally agree. If we can get some fucking Asian teams in here as well, that would be a banger.
I wish someone put money in my mouth.
I've got something I can put in your mouth.
Okay.
All right then. All right. Yeah.
And our sponsor for this episode is the
Woolworths sausages on the barbecue at I don't know if they're Woolies or Coles.
$8 for a pack of sausages. The only thing that's actually cost effective.
Yeah,
in Australia.
The only other thing I'll say about this was actually very important for VRS points for ANZ, because a lot of these teams just didn't have LAN points, and so that's why. Didn't have LAN wins. I think some of them had LAN appearances, but you need LAN wins as well in VRS to get those points on the board. That's why a lot of these teams actually jumped pretty substantially up the standings. And so when it came to deciding which of the ANZ teams would play at the MRQ, this was obviously very big for Semper Fi, who won it, for Rooster, who kind of like solidified their position, and ex-Talon, who did quite well, right? Were it potentially a world where Housebets might have outplaced Rooster, probably it was Housebets at that MRQ instead of Rooster. So it was kind of nice to actually finally have something that gave VRS points to the ANZ region, because again, as we've brought up many times, ESL Challenger League currently is not giving VRS points for this major cycle, which is also another fix that needs to be thrown into VRS. So this is kind of like the VRS hate bashing episode of Geographically Challenged, but anyway.
That's what you're supposed to do, man. I mean, that's what it's supposed to do.
That's what we're supposed to do. Let's talk Blast Lisbon as well. This one may be a little bit more difficult to read, but not something that needs to be touched on for too long. We'll start with the Mongolz here quickly. They did kind of what they had to do. They did what was more or less expected of them. Maybe underperformed slightly, I want to say, by losing to G2.
Didn't make it to playoffs. I think that's going to be disappointing for them because they were on a similar trajectory as Eternal Fire, right? In fact, longer, if I'm not mistaken, because they've been making the playoffs of every event since the event in Berlin, the Thunderpick event, right, which they won. So for them, it's going to be a bit of a, I wouldn't necessarily say a reality check or whatever. It's still, a very, very solid team. This one is a little bit of a drop off, but hopefully it makes them kind of peak at the right moment. And the right moment for me is Austin, right? So a bit of a little tap in the on the backside.
Yeah, I think it was like, again, very sort of standard. Nothing really, no bells and whistles from the Mongolz here. Nothing to really touch on, but I think it's worth touching on the Huns. Obviously, for them,
I do want to touch upon one thing because I don't think we're going to be really talking about Mongolz much here, right? Because obviously they just played a tournament. I have been enjoying some of their map vetoes now recently. I think they've been a little bit more adventurous. They're not afraid to kind of go for punish picks, which is not something they used to once upon a time, right? Once upon a time, it'd be like Mirage or Ancient. And even if their opponent's best map or second best map is Mirage and Ancient, they're like, fuck it, we're just going to play it. It's our best map. And it would always be in this bit of a, on a back foot when it comes to these sort of matchups against a good team. And now with them, trying to go for these punish picks for Anubis and whatnot, I think, again, it comes to repetition, right? Even if it's a map that they don't necessarily have the best win rate on when they try this out, I think it's going to definitely give them those very important live reps against literally top 5 teams, which I think is good. That's a good switch up from Mongolz. I like it. I would still say this, man. I really wish they did a phase and started working on the train, and suddenly, boom, they just bring it up.
Who knows? They might be working on it in the background. That's one of those things.
You're the youngest team.
You're
the youngest S-tier team in the world right now. You, of all the teams, you should be the one working on these new maps, right? You're trying to crack into the upper echelon of being the absolute super elite. Yes. You need to work on your map pool. You just can't be content being like, this is what we're good at. You to get out of your comfort zone, and considering how young you guys are, you absolutely should.
It's not only that, but like even historically in CS, like top teams in the world, they can't just play the same maps over and over again most of the time. Like they're playing all of the same teams at the ends of these tournaments. They know who they're going to go up against. They often will need to be tricky with the veto. They'll need to change up the map pool here and there. Like you will get same map pools back to back, but I think FaZe is the perfect example of a team that will always flip around the veto, or they'll try like a different approach and like try to catch people off guard a little bit more with their map pool and things. So I really do think that being a little bit better map pool wise and fucking around with the veto a little bit more might help them unlock a little bit better of a level if it's something that they haven't explored enough, for sure, because it feels like they're kind of hard stuck right now.
Yeah.
Well, how long? Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll see something interesting at the major. But anyway, what about the Huns? I thought, look, obviously very expected for them to kind of just get demolished, but there was some cool moments. There was definitely a couple of nice rounds out there from NIN. Shout out to NIN.
Yes.
He was the 7th top-rated player at the event, which is kind of crazy considering his team just got absolutely banged out 0-2-0-2. He dropped a 1.2 rating, and
some people even call him the Mongolian annihilation.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Even though
he's even an AWPer. He's even an AWPer.
Didn't he?
Exactly.
Did he come before Annihilation?
Yeah, he did.
Like,
that's a joke. That's a joke.
He got replaced by Annihilation in Mongolz.
Annihilation was on D13 when this motherfucker was playing on Tiger.
Yeah.
But it wasn't out of nowhere. That's the thing. Like, we have seen some games from NIN, and me and Jordan will be like seeing like Huns in ECL and shit. Like, NIN has been kind of like cooking in Asia as well. Like, he was kind of like decent in Tiger, and then for like many years after that, I felt like he was super mid. Like I was just like not really impressed with what he was doing. And then I think there was even various iterations of lineups where he wasn't even AWPing anymore. And I was like, all right, what are we even doing at this point? But now it actually feels like he's come back into some pretty good form, and he's been like kind of an exciting player to watch. And I think his improvement and him going into a bit more of like an impact, like carry player position is kind of aligning with what the Huns are doing in terms of going from just being a team like you expected to be disappointed by to a team that's actually playing at some international events and sort of climbing up the hierarchy in Asia, especially with ATOX on the way out. I'm assuming this is the perfect time for them to peak, really.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say like obviously like just looking at the body language as well, it did kind of feel like they were just there to kind of have fun, kind of the rest of the teammates, right? Kind of just to play it out a little bit. We saw the interview from NIN. I think he spoke very well in an interview, saying how he was disappointed, he could have done so much better and whatnot. But hey, first experience as a team against top tier opposition. What can he do? Vexy didn't impress me a lot.
That's
at all. Sorry,
that's all.
No, how do you pronounce his name? Like
Vexel.
yeah, Vexel. Yeah, it's an L. Yeah, sorry. Vexel didn't quite impress me at all. I think it could be nerves as well, but overall, I don't think I saw a single moment where I'm like, all right, this guy's got something going for him. So him being replaced as well, not a surprise for Huns. But Zerolte coming in, I don't know if that's really a big upgrade either.
No, I actually think it is. I think Zerolte's actually definitely a lot better than Vexel, personally.
Yeah,
speaking.
but he hasn't done much in a while, dude.
Well, see, the thing is, okay, so this is where the context comes in that maybe you guys aren't aware of necessarily. Vexel was the replacement for Zerolte in the Huns originally because he went to, or he was supposed to go to ATOX. He was actually supposed to replace Cabal in ATOX. And then obviously the whole ATOX thing happened. And then he's kind of been teamless for that meanwhile. And now he's coming back into the Huns. So stroke of luck maybe on the behalf of Zerolte. But I think either way, like obviously Vexel wasn't able to hang, right? And we've seen that. And so I think just, get rid of him.
It's kind of harsh as well, right? Like you come in and then one of your first events, LAN event ever is against literally top 5, top 6 teams in the world. So kind of rough, but hey, it is what it is.
But I mean, like just looking at the team, it's not bad, bro. Like Nine and Yami, I'm pretty high on these guys. Bartak, I felt like he was pretty bad for like a long time, but I've seen some better games from him. Cobra's pretty young and like I don't know, he just seems to be like a role player. And Zerolte, I think Zerolte could be decent sometimes. And then you got NCL as coach. Like I think honestly, roster looks kind of good right now.
That's the thing.
It's decent.
It's a decent team, and for me, when it comes to like the Mongolian region, and I'm always going to go with the fact where Mongolz are right now, top 6, top 7 team in the world, like easily for no matter what ranking or whatever your opinion is. And then you look at the other teams with what's happening with ATOX right now. I'm looking at, okay, who's the next team, right? Who's the next team who's going to be following their footsteps and going to be actually challenging against all these guys right now? And I don't see anyone. Are Huns with the lineup they have right now an okay team? Yeah, sure. Are they going to do the same things or even close to what the Mongolz have done in the past year and a half? I doubt it. And that's my biggest problem. The fact that all the talent is still spread across all these different teams.
That's such an unfair thing to say, though, because like who's doing anything close to them? Like even like if you would put all of the best talent in Mongolia, all of the best talent in China in one team, all the best talent, none of them are. You couldn't ever any of them say, oh, they're going to do what Mongols have done, because that was just so unprecedented.
When I say close to, I'm not saying like to make playoffs or major and stuff like that, right? But like at least be that second team. Like for example, what we saw from Tyloo at EPL, was it EPL? I think it was EPL. Yeah. If they're able to replicate pretty much a similar performance in like 2 or 3 lands internationally, I think for me that is a good metric for me, right? I'm like, yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, they're no Mongols yet, but they're quite close to it. So from an Asia perspective, for me, I'm hoping that Tyloo once again is that team. But I would love to see something from Mongolia, and I just feel like it does feel they've stagnated a little bit, just recycling the same old players, and that for me is a little, I wouldn't say worrisome, but a little disappointing.
I mean, I guess it's that question of like who's going to be the next ATOX, and can they like actually be better than ATOX? That's
also we still don't know what's happening with ATOX,
and we still don't know. Yeah, we still don't know. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to find out about that. By the way, speaking of, I think Essek just banned Joel for like forever, permanently, like permaban Joel.
Man, that guy is just—he's
just a fucking. He might be the dumbest cunt in Counter-Strike. Like he literally might be the dumbest cunt in Counter-Strike. But
and we have Forsaken, by the way, and even then, this guy is just. Did you see his tweet where he's comparing himself to like he's quoting Martin Luther King and stuff? Did he quote Gandhi as well? I don't know, man.
Dude, if that guy was legit though, like I actually remember casting some of his games. I was like, fuck, this guy's good. But I don't know if he was cheating at the time, but he was fucking good. He dropped like 40 in one map, I remember.
I think that's the problem with a guy like that. Is like. He probably was pretty good, but like he probably was also cheating.
Well,
so
this is what
like
I'm
you
saying.
Just never know.
It's like if he could have just been legit, he was actually quite a good player, I think.
Because that honestly, it reminds me of like a story. I'll summarize it really quickly. Like that, the analyst that I work with in Pacific told me, which is that Scream in a Scrim had God mode on and went like 27-0, and because it's Scream, everyone was like they didn't realize he had God mode on for ages. They just thought he was one tapping everyone. Like, oh, it's Scream. He's like 27-0. So it's like when someone has that like reputation as like, oh, this guy's actually pretty good. Like you're like, oh, is he doing something unreasonable or is he not doing something unreasonable? You don't know.
It actually reminds me that there's this very ancient, and this is for the older viewers out there, right? There's this very famous or infamous copy pasta or meme on HLTV forums back in the day, like 11, 12 years ago, which is basically Joel's on LAN, I aren't think that. And it's kind of funny because it's Joel with a Z or Z at the end of it, and he was this Finnish player who used to fucking drop bombs online, never played on land. Like every time he would qualified, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not making up, kind of sick guys," right? So it's kind of funny, these Joel motherfuckers, I tell you, and especially from the Nordics.
Name called Joel is just a red flag, I guess, at this point.
I know.
It's like, when you go on Instagram and you're like scrolling through reels and it's like, name starting with J owes me a beer or something like that. Name called Joel, Counter-Strike player, cheater. All right, anyway, let's move on.
I mean, dude, I just Googled Joel, right? I just Googled Joel, and the first person who crops up is Joel Osteen. I don't know who the fuck that is, but he's an American pastor and a tele evangelist, right? I'm just saying, these fucking Joels, man.
These Joels.
Yeah, anyway, moving on.
Moving on. PGL Astana Qualifier. This one was the one that actually we did mention prior when we were talking about the rare item Lynn Vision situation. Just wanted to quickly touch on this because I think this is kind of a cool thing that was in the rulebook here. I haven't really seen this before in any of the other tournaments. PGL, it seems like, have somehow mandated which servers teams should be playing on for the online qualifiers, which I think is actually kind of a cool idea. You can see OCE vs Asia is Guam, and then, OCE vs MENA is Singapore, these kinds of things. And that, I think, is quite beneficial just because it takes the power out of the player's hands, because there's always going to be situations in qualifiers like this where someone's going to go, I have high ping, I can't play on the server. And then it's like, oh, well, what the fuck do you want us to do? Like, this is just the nature of the beast. So if you're just going to say, look, these are the servers that you pretty much... I think they're saying you don't have to. They're kind of like as a guide almost. But they are pre-assigning them. So I just thought that was good as a shout out. The one thing I will say though is it took Semper Fi and GG How about an hour and a half to start their game, and then the Semper Fi HOTU game was the GG How HOTU game, which was the grand final, also took about an hour and a half to sort of start. So there was definitely some fuckery going on there. Whether that was on the player side or it was just servers not being good, I don't actually know. But there was some accusations, I will say, from one side to the other, saying that there was VPNs being turned off to claim that a ping was higher than it actually was to get on a better server than what they actually should have been on, and this and that, and that's just online BS. But at the end of the day, it was HOTU that ended up winning this qualifier. So HOTU's the Asia representative at PGL Astana, but they're not playing in the Asia MRQ. Fancy that.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, they're just like a decent like CIS team, which I guess is like good enough to win in Asia. I think this GG How team is like the best team we've seen from Middle East being put together in quite a while though. I'm actually I'm never excited about a Middle Eastern team, but I'm actually excited about this Middle Eastern team. And and the fact that it's called GG How and I'm saying something positive about it should tell you everything.
Good tell you. All right.
That's
Fair
a deep lore right there, baby.
Do you have anything positive to say about this next piece of news, which is Dexter being benched from FlyQuest? We haven't actually talked about that on Geographically Challenged as a group just yet. No.
Okay.
I talked about it last time with Ali and Savage when I talked to them at Dfrag, but I don't think the three of us have had a bit of a chat about it. But look, obviously it's old news, which is why it's kind of like down a little bit in the depths of this episode. But I think it's still pretty big news. And I'd love to get your thoughts on it, because I think this is one of the biggest, most high-profile roster changes in ANZCS in a while.
I think this is something. I mean, I was privy to a little bit of information about this as well. And look, I think it's public knowledge that Dexter has said this in interviews. And I think it's public knowledge that they did not have any time. I think they had 3 days of prac in total after they added Regali, right? Which is not at all enough. And I don't want to get too much into it, but it feels like there were a lot of, they're trying to really make quite a few substantial changes in the team. When I say by that, I'm not saying like, new players coming in, but more like, roles wise and whatnot, and trying to figure stuff out. And based on Dexter's tweets he's made so far and just the way things went down, it does feel like a bit of a coup, a bit of a backstab situation coming in here. Now, this is always going to be he said, she said, obviously, right? But in defense of Dexter, I feel like when you just have 3 days of prac, man, that's not enough. That's not enough at all if you want to get any results. Now, results weren't great. Obviously, you have to take responsibility for that. But I feel like this was kind of like like a knee-jerk reaction. I don't know if it's from the players, from the organization, or maybe both together to kind of be like, all right, we need to change right now. And it's going to be Dexter's going to make who's going to leave here. And I just feel it's very knee-jerk, mainly because in calling, I remember when he used to call, a few years ago, man, I wasn't that super impressed. I think Dexter is easily a better IGL overall, and them cutting him, and look, picking up Nettik, I think That's great. You know, obviously a great firepower upgrade, so to speak. I do not think that is going to be the solution to the problems right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to play devil's advocate, if you're going to sort of argue for Dexter, I can argue for the change. Obviously, the team wasn't performing, so that's one thing. They were not getting the results that they would have wanted at all. So I think at some point there would have had to have been a change that would have been made. Now, in my personal opinion, I would not be making a change this early before a major. Like, I don't think that's a good move, especially with your IGL. Like a month out, getting changed prior to the MRQ. It seems like a wild change. But with the timing of the Talon dissolution, with Nettik being available and people sniffing around at Nettik's position, this is maybe your one potential chance as FlyQuest to get this player. If you don't pick him up now and he ends up going on to, any other team, do you potentially not get him ever again in the same way that some of these North American players, have gone into international teams and never been available to the likes of, your Complexities or your liquids anymore? That's very much a possibility I think that they were concerned about. And then on the topic of ins to IGL, that was a good 2-3 years ago when he was in game leading. I think it was about 2 years ago at this point. Well, actually, maybe not. Maybe Dexter's been in the team for about a year, maybe just slightly more than a year. So let's say a year and a half. But a lot has changed, obviously, with regard to Counter-Strike in that time. In's been playing a lot longer now. He's a little bit more mature as an individual. The team that he has around him now to lead as well is a better team, in my opinion, I would argue, just in terms of a firepower perspective, right? The difference being, I think, Nettik for Sicko and Regali for Alistar are the two changes from the last time the In's in-game leaded the roster. So there's less of an onus on In's now to be like that. Like in that previous roster, when he was in-game leading, he was him. He was the in-game leader. He was Freeman in Art of War. Right, he was the in-game leader. He was the star player, team captain, like everything. Right, in this team, assuming he is now, just going to have that in-game leadership role, and that's kind of like all he really has to do. Vexite is far and away a better player than what he was a year and a half ago. I think we can all agree on that. Regali adds more firepower definitely than what Alistar did on an individual level. Whether that's working in the team system, that's a conversation still to be had. I think the rifle is definitely struggling a little bit more.
You haven't mentioned Liaz yet.
And obviously, with Nettik coming in, you add this young firepower kind of addition to the rifling core that wasn't there when Inns was last in-game leading. So Inns, Vexite, Nettik, I think is a pretty nice rifling core. Regali, I think, is an AWPer who's actually looking pretty good.
That's a great 4-man Counter-Strike team. That's lovely.
I have nothing to say on Liaz.
I think...
I'm just trying to say the change.
This is basically how I feel about it as well. It's like... there's clearly some fuckery going on here, because it doesn't exactly make sense. I would personally, I kind of agree with Bleh. I would personally rather see, because I think the way that I think about it that just makes this roster change not make sense is that Inns might be like the best and like most impactful player that we have in OCE, and we're like putting him on IGL. Like, I just don't really like that. I would prefer to have Dexter on IGL and Inns like full firepower, even if he's had like a bit of a dip in form. And then you put Nettik in the team for Liaz. Like that's honestly what I would much prefer. But there's obviously some like extracurricular, I don't know what you'd say. There's like some other circumstances that are going on here, some personal shit or some weird like opinions or management, or there's something going on here that like doesn't really like add everything up so that like 1 + 1 is 2. I know that the thing is for Dexter, I think he's like one of the most like iconic players when he was in good form, and like he was fucking insane. He was like IGLing and he was fucking insane on like that Greyhound team. Like honestly, one of the best players, like right up there with Inns in OCE for me. But since he's been to Europe and in this current iteration of FlyQuest, he hasn't been that same like level of performer, and he's been very up and down. He has some very poor maps. But at the same time, I feel like in like modern Counter-Strike, that's not like bad. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Your in-game leader doesn't need to be some fucking stud, bro. Like, I honestly think I would prefer to have Dexter as the in-game leader and put Nettik in the team and have that as a team.
Okay, but so look, obviously your argument here is
not on IGL.
Obviously, your argument here is minus Liaz plus Nettik. Are we not then doing the same thing that was done to Liaz when he was like that up-and-coming star player guy from ANZ, where everyone was like, fuck, this guy's sick. Put him in the top ANZ team, and he goes over to Renegade/100 Thieves, and then ends up in all the bitch roles, right? And becomes like, oh, okay, everyone's like, oh, he was kind of mid. When he was just like not put in the roles that he kind of like improved with and became that guy. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna see this guy like rise through the ranks, playing these certain roles, and then put him in a better team and play like roles where he's just not comfortable with, not accustomed to. Like, is that what we want to do to Nettik? Right? Like, is that what we want?
I'm okay with that, dude. You're a 21-year-old kid. You're having your best opportunity you've ever had in your young career. You adapt, right? I don't like this role cell behavior from people. Oh no, the role's not gonna fit. I'm like, sure. It maybe didn't work out for certain players out there, but if you're this young, if you're this talented, you should be able to willing to adapt and try and thrive in whatever role's being given to you, right? Or at least have a conversation. I'm okay with that. He's such a young player playing in his first actual proper team. I'm not even going to count his time in Talon, right? Because it's so short. It was very chaotic by the looks of things. So yeah. I would disagree. I think like him coming in and playing whatever roles asked of him, he should just do it. Shut up and do it.
I honestly think if you're going to make that argument, though, that you care about the roles so much, like I would put Nettik in the roles that he wants and put Vexite in Anchor, even if it doesn't like fit as well, personally, because I think Nettik's going to give you better output than Vexite for me, personally. Like we've seen a lot of Vexite, and I think it's pretty good. At the same time, though, I've seen Nettik actually play a lot of anchoring positions in the past, in like Rooster, on like CT and stuff like that. So I know that it's something that he can do. But yeah, I would actually prefer that. Like, I really think that's if I was the GM, that's a decision that I would have made. I would have definitely kept Dexter.
Also got to remember, like, considering they're moving Dexter and stuff, there's going to be a lot of role changes happening, right? With the, especially wins as the IGL and whatnot. So there is going to be a bit of I'm assuming a bit of a shuffle when it comes to roles, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a great time for him to be coming on in anyway. So yeah, this entire role thing, I don't necessarily buy it. And I still feel this change is gonna hurt them in the long term, and I feel like they're not necessarily gonna reach the heights that they wanted to with Dexter with this lineup. Not anytime soon. Maybe way down the line, but not anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously we'll get to find out, in not very much time. Like in a couple of weeks' time, there's going to be the ANZ Oceania MRQ. FlyQuest will be playing that. They'll be playing against Semper Fi, who are on a bit of a hot streak at the moment. Obviously, ex-Talon are always a team that could cause a bit of a ruckus with the talent that they've got on that roster, and even Rooster. Like, Rooster have probably been, I would say, underperforming a little bit, but I think they're still a good team that can definitely push someone like a FlyQuest. So if things aren't working in FlyQuest with this Nettik era, they are definitely going to be exposed at that MRQ. And I think this is one of those MRQs where they look the most susceptible, more susceptible than they ever really have. And quite frankly, in some of the, let's say the last 2 or 3 MRQs, their spot at majors, FlyQuest spot, or Greyhound as they were at the time, their position at those majors has been quite tenuous. They have only just qualified for the previous one, and things are pretty close, obviously, in some of the other results. So we'll see how it goes. They've made that decision, and we'll have to just sort of see how it plays out, which I think is... Look, the way Nettik played at Dfrag Invitational, it's pretty obvious that he needs to call up to a better team. Like he was dropping numbers. Like he deserves to be in a better team, right? And I think it's good to see him here in FlyQuest. I think just if we highlight that as an individual conversation point outside of all of the Dexter, Liaz, blah 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 messiness, Nettik in a team that's competing internationally, or in theory should be competing internationally, although they have lost a lot of their VRS points, so they might not be getting international invites. I think it's a good thing. I think for him, he deserves that step up. So I'm very excited for what he's going to be able to do.
He's deserved the slot for way fucking longer than he's had to wait for it. It's insane. Like his consistency has been fucking insane.
Yep.
And even just seeing like the Rooster fall off since they lost Nettik is like just tells you how fucking insane he is.
It's always been Nettik's been the next guy, probably for like at least 12 months at this point. And prior to that, I don't think there was like an obvious next guy, if that makes any sense. Regardless, let's move on to the next topic. And these are sort of some quick fire ones, so we'll just jump through them towards the end of the episode here. What have we got? Ex-Talon making some roster moves, and I don't know that they're necessarily like locked in, but they did forfeit their slot in ESL Challenge League, so I think that sort of indicates that these changes are more or less happening. Otherwise, they would obviously continue playing in ESL Challenge League. So if you don't know, they were obviously playing with Nettik and Malta at Dfrag Invitational, and the core at the moment is now Addict, Hazard, and Sterling. So joining Addict, Hazard, and Sterling, I believe, is now Brace and Forleks. That's the most recent roster that I've seen, I think, on ESEA. They're now known as the Fellas. So they're going to be making their grind through ESEA and trying to qualify for the next season of ESL Challenger League, which I think should be very easy for a team that has those players on it. So it is almost like a spiritual successor now to Vertex again. If we're talking about them as ex-Talon, actually you could almost call them ex-Vertex because it is the reunion of Brace, Addict, and Hazza. Sterling being back is kind of cool. I don't think he had a particularly outrageous performance, to be quite honest with you. At Dfrag Invitational, he was definitely not the strong point of that ex-Talon roster, but it's kind of cool to see him back. And Forleks as well, taking a bit of a break and potentially coming back in here as well, I think is pretty cool as well. So yeah, I don't mind that team. That's really all I have to say about that. I think it'll be cool. Don't know exactly who they're going to be playing the MRQ with, but as long as they have the core points from the Addict, Hazza, and Sterling core, which I believe they should, they would still be getting that invite, and then I assume they can play with whoever they want at that point. So
yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, Brace is going to come in IGL. It is kind of like Vertex 2.0. So let's see what they can do. Haven't seen Forleks play in a while. Honestly, I think I think this is super interesting right now. Like, I feel like a lot of moves have been made.
This MRQ is going to be close. Like, people are going to say FlyQuest will win, but I think it's going to be close.
I don't know if like Rooster, Rooster, Fellas, House Bets, like all of these, even House Bets, the last game that I just watched from them, that we just watched from them in ECL, they were looking fucking good, man. Like, they were actually looking good. I'm like, oh shit. Like, there's a lot of pretty solid cores going on right now.
Yep. Exciting time to be an Oceanic fan, and maybe an exciting time to be a Thai CS fan as well. I don't know if you guys have seen this. The Thai team from Extremesland, which was known as ROG, Real Original Gamers. Don't talk to me about the irony of naming your team ROG, which is an ASUS brand at a Zowie-sponsored event. Anyway, they've now been picked up by Deep Cross Gaming, which is a Taiwanese org. I think they have a League of Legends team in the whatever the Asia Pacific League of Legends is. Is it the LCP? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But they have a team in there. They picked up this Thai CS team, which is the guys from Extremesland, which is a pretty good team. Other indications that Thai CS is maybe coming back, I will say, is I've seen Genius and Reality streaming CS almost every day. They've been co-streaming things like ESL Pro League. I've jumped in the chat a couple times and talked to them. They seem to be pretty into CS at the moment. And you know, aside from that, it's mostly just like various instances of Thai players kind of like popping up here and there in the CS space. Even saw someone like saying like PTC commenting about CS or something like that as well. So I'm not insinuating necessarily that all of these guys are going to come back over from Valorant to CS or anything like that. But the guys that are now playing in CS seem to be pretty committed to it. They've got themselves an org. So I think that's kind of cool, right? Like, we haven't had much to talk about when it comes to Thai CS since probably 4 years ago. And it's kind of nice to at least just say, yeah, there's something happening in Thailand.
Yeah, I just want to see cigarettes back as well. That's all.
Cigarettes.
Blair loves
I
cigarettes.
think he's pretty Valorant pilled, I think. Not gonna lie.
No, come on.
I don't even know if he's in an active team. The org that he was on just pulled out completely.
He's a
like in Thailand.
He's a stream quite a bit though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a big streamer. He's like a huge personality. He's huge in Thailand, like legit.
Right. They're all pretty big. Like, I was looking at the numbers these guys are hitting on these EPL co-streams. Some of them are getting like 500 plus viewers. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty good, you know?
Counter-Strike, yeah.
Yeah, for Counter-Strike in Asia, like, holy shit. I wouldn't get 500 views.
Not even Asia, for Thailand, that's it.
For Thailand, yeah, they're speaking in Thailand.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Cigarettes is like PRX content creator, and he was playing on like a pro CS team. He's got like 100k followers on Twitter, mate. Like Thai fans get fucking around it.
I mean, he's in Paper X, so he's not gonna. Yeah, he's gonna be there for a while.
Speaking of which, Paper X anniversary. Are we going to that? I'm not going. I don't think it's gonna cost you much.
I literally can't. Like, I will be detained.
What?
All right.
I won't be detained.
Pilski's not allowed into Singapore. Why? I don't know.
I'll just leave it at that.
I'll be detained.
No context. No context.
No, I think I might have something coming on the same day, so can't make it. Or else I was planning to go to Singapore. It's close by, so yeah.
Anyway, shout out to Paper X. They were cool guys. Nick was on
one of the first.
Nick was on one of the first Geographically Challenged. He's not as cool now. He was cooler back then when he did.
Now he's like, successful businessman and everything's become, everything he hated.
Suffering from success, really. You lose sight of what's important, like Geographically Challenged.
He shows up to India nowadays, like on vacation and stuff, and he doesn't even say hi.
That's a dog move.
He used to drop into Bangalore, just even if he's going to Mumbai or something. He's like, hey, what's up, Bleh? Catch up for a drink or something.
To be fair, probably was a lot cheaper back then to just sort of make it a random stopover, but now airfares are kind of insane. So we'll give him that out.
Joking. Love you, Nick. Shout out.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, but we won't be there. I mean, geographically challenged, too good for a fucking Valorant party anyway. EPL World Series Oceania has been cancelled. Did you guys see that?
No,
No.
What is
Due to
that?
technical issues.
That's
I
why
have no idea
that's
what
why
this
I've got that
you-
oh
what?
no anyway meme written
Bleh.
on the notes.
Bleh,
How do you not know about that?
You don't know the European Pro League Oceania edition
Season
Zimbabwe
2.
qualifier. Season
Wait,
2, episode 5.
how did cancel an entire event for technical reasons? Like, what happened?
I don't know.
It's technical, bro. You wouldn't understand. Like, you wouldn't get it, actually.
Oh, season 1 prize money hasn't been paid out as well. There you go. That's the technical issue.
I think
Funny.
I think from what I heard, the
Financial-
technical issue
financial
was
technical issues.
the tech issue that I had heard was actually that teams had just come back from Dfrag Invitational, couldn't play a lot of their matches, and said, "Can we reschedule?" But then apparently there was no way that could happen with the way that the tournament was structured or something like that, and so they just cancelled all of those. And it was like, okay, I mean, fine. Like, I don't care, to be honest. European Pro League having an Oceania League. Oh no! Anyway, that was my reaction.
That is reasonable, though.
To be honest,
like if one of the teams says, like, to ESL, you know, like, we can't make it on this day, there's fuck the whole event. Fuck you.
You know what? And don't
Oceania.
worry about that
Fuck.
season 1 prize money either. We'll just get rid of that.
Yeah, just flip the metaphorical table, I guess. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't really
yep.
beg much of a conversation, to be honest, but just thought it was funny. What about this Blast India news? I don't know if you've got any insight on this one, Blair. Is this going to help us in Counter-Strike or not?
So, multiple
here we
little
go.
birdies, told me a while ago that Blast were shut the fuck up. The Blast were in talks with potential partners or, like, you know, sponsors or whatever in India, or partners more like, or investors. This is like a year and a half ago, if memory serves me right, thereabouts. And the Reliance did come into the picture. That was one of the companies which I knew they were probably talking to, but that's the last I heard of it. So it seems like it's kind of coalesced together. And just for people who don't know who Reliance is, they're like the biggest conglomerate in the country. The owner is like the 5th richest man in the world or something. Let me look it up. Hold up. Like his kid's wedding. His kid's wedding is one where Rihanna and fucking Beyonce showed up. If you guys saw that, like the most expensive wedding, I think it was like $500
Mr.
million.
Moneybags.
Yeah.
Mr. Moneybags. He is worth, I think some 94 billion or something.
Fucking hell.
He's the richest guy in Asia, right? Like, isn't he? Or the richest guy in India?
In Asia,
Or
yeah,
Asia.
and richest man in the world ranking. I was curious, actually.
I think he's number 5 in the world. I think I saw somewhere.
Which is 18th. That's what Forbes says.
Right.
Which is still pretty, top 20 richest man. It's pretty substantial. So anyway, Reliance are a conglomerate. They do mainly like energy, the energy sector. They have their subsidiary, I think, which is also the biggest telecom company in the country when it comes to being a carrier and everything. So they're big. They got big money, and I know for a fact that they have had aspirations, excuse me, of getting into esports, but primarily it was for PUBG Mobile or BGMI and all these mobile games initially, because they know getting into like PC games is a whole different ball game altogether. So for them tying up with Blast, one thing would be, obviously, I'm assuming Blast going to be having a good injection of cash, are going to be partner up in that aspect. But what excites me is the fact that opening up this esports thing in Mumbai, again, I don't know when they're going to have an event. I've heard rumors it's going to be early 2026. It's literally a year from now in Mumbai, which should be pretty cool. And look, and I'm sure Blast can do it, right? Because obviously they've done events in Singapore, a lot of events in Asia as well. And if you have a very, very rich and very powerful local partner to kind of figure stuff out, even just having like a 300, 200 member, audience seating, nice little environment, and having a tournament right there, I think would be a step in the right direction as well. And maybe, kind of helping, at least for my country, kind of, just cleansing our memory of some of the more rougher events we've had recently. So all in all, yeah, I think it's a good thing. I mean, I can't say anything negative about this.
Money will wash away all the bad thoughts. Don't worry, Bleh.
I say
It'll
that.
all get
I
better.
say that, and every fucking time, I'm like, oh, this time it's going to be different, and something always fucking happens, man. I guarantee you, there's going to be fucking flash floods and some act of God that's going to happen when this event's about to happen. So, like, anyway,
When will they stop holding back Indian CS? Like, it's just not fair. Even God himself.
even
will just
God
not let you guys
himself
succeed.
has forsaken us.
We'll see.
All right.
All right, let's move on to some viewer questions to wrap up the episode. We've got a few of them. These are from Ayriks on Twitter, and he, I think, is Latvian. He's certainly very interested in the Latvian region, so maybe from somewhere around there, but I think he was Latvian. Anyway, he wants to know, Semper Fi has overtaken FlyQuest in the VRS standings, as you can see here, actually, on the graphic that I prepared earlier. Go me. Should FlyQuest be worried? Now, I guess the question is, should FlyQuest be worried? What should they be worried about? Should they be worried about the fact that they've been overtaken by VRS? Or should they be worried about Semper Fi potentially being a better team than them? I guess those are two different answers.
I think VRS.
I think they should definitely be worried about the fact that Semper Fi's overtaken them in VRS. Not just Semper Fi, by the way. Like, fucking half the teams in Asia now, apparently. Like, Rare Adam's above them, obviously. The Huns are potentially going to be above them after the end of this Messer event. Maybe Chinga's Warriors as well. Tyloo's very, very close to them. So I think they should definitely be very worried about that. And that is kind of the problem with the route that FlyQuest have taken in terms of what they're choosing to prioritize. Obviously, they've chosen to prioritize a lot of these big international events, and that's all well and good if you're going to them and you're getting results, you're getting points on the board, and you're winning. But they've lost a lot of points at a lot of these big events, and they haven't been coming back to play the smaller events and farming the local VRS points, which is what all these other teams are doing and are now overtaking them. So that's definitely a concern for FlyQuest. Just quickly on the other point, is FlyQuest a better team than Semper Fi or vice versa? Look, I still think FlyQuest is probably a stronger team than Semper Fi personally, so I don't think they necessarily have to be worried about that, but it is definitely a consideration going into the MRQ.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think, yeah.
That's about it. Yeah.
FlyQuest just has to be worried about the system, really.
Yep.
And winning.
I mean, winning at least in OCE, I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. If they're playing Semper Fi, I give Semper Fi, like, maybe they could take a map, but FlyQuest will, especially with Nettik. Like,
Nettik coming in.
That's the thing. That's the thing with the Nettik edition, bro. Like, you can guarantee like 25 kills a map from Nettik against those teams. He will fucking farm.
I think they're just gonna just pug their way to the top of OCE, honestly. I'm not too worried about it.
I mean, they don't need to do anything special in OCE, honestly, FlyQuest with Nettik.
Semper Fi was pretty close in those games against ex-Talon, and a lot of that was obviously largely due to Nettik's performances in some of those maps. And now you're putting Nettik with, Inns and Vexide and Regali and Liaz. Like, they're gonna probably farm those. So there's not too much of a concern there. The next question is with regards to Keen and Shady plus the OCE team, obviously with Semper Fi. How far can they go? Could they potentially qualify to a major? So basically asking, can Semper Fi qualify to a major? I think it's a possibility. Like, I think there is definitely a world where, FlyQuest have these bad games sometimes. We've seen them in some of the previous RMRs. They lose that opening game to Talon. Like, if that FlyQuest shows up again, maybe they do lose a series here. And then all of a sudden, things kind of get thrown into a bit of a weird world. I'd say there's maybe a 5-10% chance for Semper Fi to make it to the major out of the Oceania MRQ, unless there was a second slot, which there is not going to be, as far as we believe.
So you think there is a chance?
There is a chance. I'm saying there's a chance.
There's always a chance. Unlikely, but there is a chance.
Yeah. Could Vision's time in Semper Fi help the next team he joins? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, even just playing on a team and like with experienced players like that, of course, it's going to help the next team he joins. And I think he's on.
He's on house bets.
He's on.
He was playing house bets yesterday.
Wait, wasn't he on? Didn't you just put him in the roster of?
No. That was the non-updated version of that note.
Okay.
So originally I thought he was going to be in that team, and now we saw him yesterday, the other day, in the ECL game. Remember, he played about 3 rounds back to back. With 5 minute breaks in between.
Fucking hell. Oh my god, Bleh. You would actually fucking lose your fucking shit, bro. This dude disconnected one round, like every round for like 10 rounds in a row, and we kept going to tech pauses.
Wait,
like every single round. Vision. He was playing an online ECL game, and me and Jordan were casting it, and he just disconnected into a like 5-minute tech pause. It disconnected into a 10-minute tech pause. Like it was actually the most painful thing I've ever had to watch. So just based on that, fuck Vision.
Yeah. Fuck him.
Nah, I mean,
I don't know him, but fuck him.
Terry! I will say,
he was playing against Terry.
By the way,
against Terry.
Against Terry? Yeah, well, fuck him twice.
I've got two things to say on this quickly. Vision,
fuck
actually,
him. Yeah,
in the rounds that we saw him play at in that ECL game, he was actually doing pretty well. I remember he was kind of like farming those couple of rounds. Like when he was actually in the server, he looked pretty good. He was getting multi-frags, so credit. The other thing is, Terry has some cultural impact now, actually, by the way, because that was getting bandied around at Dfrag Invitational. He came up to me and he's like, I'm Terry. And I was like,
I'm him, bro.
Nice, bro. Nice to meet you. And then
Terry.
And then everyone just walks off, and everyone was just going, Terry! So it's pretty
Terry's
cool.
a cool name. I like Terry.
Yeah.
Let's go, Terry.
Is that
Terry
his
sounds like
real name?
No, it's
Terry's
like,
the sort of guy I want to
I
like
think his
grab
name's
a
like
drink
Lamb
with, you know?
Fung or something like that. And that's
It's Terry
not
to
a
me.
joke, I'm pretty sure.
He just called himself Terry as
Which is
Lamb
great.
Fung.
Yeah.
He called himself Terry as his alias. Okay.
Yeah, what a goat. I mean, it's
That's
probably
even
his
more
English
legendary.
name. Let's just be real.
Okay.
But here's a special question for you, Pilski. I don't know why this is the Pilski special question, just for what it's worth. When will we see a bigger land in Tasmania? And who is the goat of Tasmania in CS2?
CS2. Is there even a Am I forgetting?
Did you go to Tasmania? Is this why this is a...
Yeah, I went to Tasmania.
This must be
It's
because you went to
beautiful.
Tasmania.
I love Tasmania.
So when will we see a bigger
Tasmania's
land in
fucking amazing.
Tasmania? The answer here is
Everyone
literally...
should go to Tasmania.
You'll never see a
Everyone
land
should
in
go to
Tasmania.
Tasmania at least once.
Not
Is
for a
this
land,
the
though.
Latvian guy.
Yeah. It's all from the
The
same
Latvian
guy.
guy's asking me about Tasmania. What's wrong with you, mate? Like, am I forgetting someone?
Is he
I don't know
Latvian?
any players from Tasmania that are active. The goat of Tasmania for me would be like Dizzy,
Okay, he's
Dizzy
Latvian.
life.
Yeah. His location is Riga, which is a capital city of
Okay.
Latvia. I've probably
Yeah,
butchered the name, but
Dizzy's pretty goated, but
Dizzy was
he
from
broke
from
his
Tassie?
arm and got addicted to WoW or something. Yeah, Dizzy was from Tassie.
I don't
He
know
carried me
any
to
other
an
players.
Athlon.
Hey,
I don't know any players from Tasmania. I'm sure there are some that I'm like blatantly forgetting. So sorry if I missed like a meme, but I will say Tasmania is fucking beautiful. Like everyone should go. It is a beautiful part of our country.
Oh.
Like I'm gonna find a photo for you guys while you talk about the next question.
I'm just terrified of Tasmanian devil, dude. There's those nasty little motherfuckers. And I saw them in the Sydney Zoo, and
they're actually quite cute.
they look mean.
Ah, they're cute.
Cute? They look fucking mean, dude. Like,
Okay, maybe it's an Australian thing. What I will say
Like
though
drop
is
bears.
I've just had an amazing thought. Okay, our podcast is called Geographically Challenged. Okay, and now we're starting to get into
oh no.
we're getting into tourism territory. You know, Pilski's trying to like fob us off to Tasmania. Just saying, we should partner with like a Visit Victoria or like one of these governments just to do a bit of sponsorship. You know, a bit of a promo for the old Geographically Challenged. We're geographically challenged until we get to Tasmania. See,
This is unedited photo, bro. Wait, look at this landscape, bro.
It looks like AI generated.
Yeah, wait, this way. Look at these photos, bro.
just be careful.
This
how
is a
much you're
real
swiping here,
place.
buddy.
Oh,
The poo
public
balloons are
safety
coming.
alert. Legit,
Oh
legit.
no!
Look how beautiful this is, bro. This is unedited.
Are you good there, Pilski? Just
It's the poo balloons. It's literally the poo balloons.
That looks great. I won't lie. We should. I'm actually a fan of this, Jordan. I could try and kill racism by making India a visitable place as well. If people coming in wouldn't go to the most fucking hellhole places in the country where I haven't even been to and be like, oh my god, I'm dying. I'm like, dude, you fucking eating some fucked up food. I've never had food like that in my entire life, dude. What the fuck are you on
Turn
about?
Bleh into Kermit the Frog, bro. He's really passionate about this.
No, they're really nice places to go to. Just go to a reasonable city like Bangalore. Yeah, come over here. The weather's great, the food's great, the booze is great. You're not gonna fucking get diarrhea and shit yourself.
Wait, where was Dinko?
Bumfuck nowhere. What?
Where was Dinko when he nearly died?
Dinko was fine in Bangalore. He went to Pune and he pooed himself.
Okay, well that's why it's called Pune, right? Like there you go. Just story.
I wouldn't say that. You said it. I didn't say it. I know people from Pune. They might kill me if I said it. But I'm just saying, he was in Bangalore for a week. Nothing happened to him. He had a great fucking time. So, oh man, I'm going to miss it. Comes back to fucking India, goes to Pune. What does he do? Shits himself, almost dies.
Yep. Never going to India
We need to
again.
hit up Chennai. When's IEM Chennai happening?
I'm never going to Chennai. Never going to Chennai.
Never go to
Dude,
Chennai.
it's like 48 Celsius with 100 humidity. Like,
there's water.
go
Good
fuck
to the
yourself.
water,
Dude, I have water in Bangalore as well. I don't have to fucking die over there. It's insane. Anyway, that's a good topic, though. We should have like a, a Geo Challenge episode sponsored by, I don't know, Visit
Sponsored
India.
by Bangalore, yeah. We can do it in Bangalore.
The city of Bangalore, yeah.
Okay, last question before we wrap things up. Is Azza the problem plus paycheck stealer? Look, that's a bit of a loaded question.
I love it when they add on like something. It's like
is that by Dexter? Is that by Dexter?
Is Azza a mediocre CS player? Also, he's kind of like Hitler if you think about it. Just adding something absolutely egregious at the end. Just being like,
what a question!
Just be like, yeah, man, yeah.
No, look, I think to take it seriously for a second, I don't think like you can really make a super informed opinion on this. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm assuming referring to Talon. I just don't think that team really ever got the run that it needed to. Like, they were doing okay. They qualified for the RMR. Sure, they didn't make the major, but the expectation was never that they should make the major with that team. I think they did okay at the RMR, all things considered. And then as soon as 2025 hit, it was like they didn't have anything to play in. So, was he the problem? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that the biggest problem in Talon was Azza. I don't think there was really necessarily a problem in Talon. I think it was just that the team wasn't in the circumstances that they needed to be in to succeed. If that exact team, you copy paste that exact team into ANZ and had that Talon versus Semper Fi in the grand final of Dfrag Invitational, fuck, that would have been a banger game. Just saying.
Yeah, I think Azza's fine. He just is. He just like he is what he is as a player. He's got experience. He can bring like the IGLing and the structure and the like knowledge of how to play on like a top tier team and a lot of that structure and what your practice norms and routines should look like and working with management and all that kind of stuff. So it's a leadership figure in a team, whether it's a coach or an IGL. As long as you have a good enough team to like carry the fact that he's just not what he was in terms of firepower, then he's fine on a team, or he's fine on like a lower level O's team for me. Like I don't have a problem with Azza necessarily. I have a problem with Azza if you're expecting him to be like what he's known for, which is like he used to be like this fucking hyper aggressive rifler in early like in CSS and early CSGO, who was like one of the best players in Australia and was just really fucking annoying to play against. And he was like a very exciting player.
He wasn't also not over 30 and an in-game leader.
Yeah. It's just like a different era. It just is what it is. Like Azza's time has kind of passed in terms of like being a super impactful player in the server. He will have his impact in other ways if you want him on your team, but if he never plays this game of CS again, I honestly don't really care, because like what he's done already is fantastic. He's had a great career. So, if people are going to pay him money for that knowledge, then he's not stealing his paycheck, because if you have some kind of performance contract that he's got to get more than 20 kills a game, then he's stealing a paycheck. But I don't think that's why anyone would be giving this guy a paycheck in the first place. So paycheck stealer, no.
Yeah.
Not for me.
What's that saying? Like, let sleeping dogs lie, right? And it's like, just don't. Why are we disturbing this? You know what I mean? Like, he's had his career. He's done really well. Doesn't need to be anything more than it is. Obviously, if he wants to come back and he wants to keep competing, power to him. But I don't think we necessarily should have expectations that he's going to come back and be like a world beater in ANZ CS anymore. So
I think the the tragedy of Azra is, I think it was out of the scene for a bit, right? And that's when we're having this massive shift in the meta, and we had like CS2 coming in and everything, and considering, again, like you said, him having to reinvent himself as an IGL and doing what he's doing right now in what is a very different environment where you have fucking freaks of nature like Donk running around and Monacy and all these motherfuckers, right? It's going to be very hard for him to adapt. Making an impact internationally, I don't think that's ever going to happen with Azra. I'm just sorry to say. Like Pilski said, his time is, it's come and gone. And also, I still feel like he could still be a veteran figure and kind of help the up and coming, guys
he
to do it.
Probably already has, like even like Addict and Hazard and shit playing with him.
Exactly,
playing with him had probably already learned a lot from him.
I like for him to be around for a little bit longer than that, to not teach like the meta or whatever, but all the intangibles of tier 1, S tier Counter-Strike, which is something you only get to learn when you play it, right? And that's something he's done through his long career playing with some of the best players out there. So I definitely believe if that is his role, absolutely worth the money.
Yep.
At least in O's. Yep.
All right.
One of the highest placements at a major, mate. Not a fluke.
Top 4.
Even Mongolz haven't done it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, AUCS still better than Mongolian CS.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh my god, I'm so glad
up.
someone said it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've just been bottling that in
Fucking
this whole
luck of
time.
dogs,
Yeah.
just top
Well, why
80.
do I get all the hated when you're the one talking shit? Oh, this guy, this long-haired guy, he hate Mongolia. Bro, I'll be talking about the Mongols before you could even fucking read, you fucking cunt. You're like, this is like 2014. I met Zilkenberg before anyone knew who he was. Fuck off.
Yeah.
If you think about it, guys, like, you guys are so ungrateful. Like, with Zilkenberg and Machine Gun, if they hadn't played in the Indian scene, your scene would be fucking nothing, guys. Honestly,
they learned
say
everything
it.
from India. Yeah.
They learn everything from India, guys. So come on.
Put some respect on India's name. That's all I'm going to say.
I can't. Just fucking end it.
All right, let's wrap it up. Yep, that's it. Next content you'll see from us is not going to be on this channel. It is going to be on the Skinclub channel. So check out the description with the link there. You can find our MRQ preview in about a week's time. We're going to be doing that one over there. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy if you'd like to pay some money for this episode or any episode. That would be much appreciated. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace out, cunts.
Yep.
Wow.
Hey guys, just at the end of that video and heading into 2025, I want to give a massive shout out to Jean, who has been a big supporter of mine on buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. She's been a member for over 12 months. And if you'd be interested in supporting my content and getting this content grind going, then head over there as well and check it out. Thank you very much.